March 14, 2024, Snake River, Idaho. The drought had lasted 6 months. When the river receded, bones surfaced first, then rusted metal. A local fisherman spotted it just after sunrise. A school bus lodged sideways in the dry bed, half buried in silt and thyme. The doors were still sealed. Inside, on a cracked vinyl seat, a moldy yearbook rested open. Its cover, Class of 1994, Field Trip Memories. Before we dive deeper into this chilling story on missing shadows, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss stories that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. March 14, 2024, Boise, Idaho. Maya Jensen stared at the breaking news alert on her phone. She read the headline once, twice, then dropped the device as if it had burned her. School bus found in Snake River, believed linked to 1994 disappearance of 10 students. Her heart pounded like it hadn't in years. Not since that day. Maya had been 11 years old when her classmates vanished. 10 students from her 6th grade class at Clearwater Middle School, gone during a spring field trip to a state park. The bus never returned. No crash site. No footprints. No final radio call. Just silence. She was supposed to be on that trip. But strep throat kept her home. Her mother hadn't let her go. "I'll catch the next one," Maya had mumbled from bed, angry at the time. She never got the chance. For years, there were rumors. Some believed the driver had kidnapped them. Others said the bus plunged into the Snake River, swallowed whole. A few whispered something darker, abduction, cover-up, even the supernatural. But nothing was ever found. Until now. She stood up from her couch slowly, legs unsteady. The river, the bus, She hadn't opened her own in decades, but now, trembling, she dug through the top shelf of her closet. Dust fell in lazy spirals. The cover still had doodles from friends. She flipped through it until she saw their faces, frozen in smiles, arms linked. Back when they were all still here. Tears welled in her eyes. They had been missing for 30 years. And now, maybe, just maybe, some truths were finally ready to surface. March 15, 2024, Snake Riverbed, Idaho. By dawn, the site was sealed. State troopers lined the dry banks. Yellow tape flapped in the wind. Reporters were kept behind makeshift barricades as forensic teams in white suits circled the bus like moths around something holy and forbidden. Maya stood just beyond the crowd, arms crossed tightly against her chest. She hadn't planned to come. But something pulled her here. "They say it's still sealed shut," a voice said beside her. She turned to see a tall man in a dark jacket. His face was older, more tired than she remembered, but the badge on his belt confirmed it, Detective Sam Rivera. He had led the original case in '94 as a rookie. Now, grayer and slower, he had returned like a ghost with unfinished business. 30 years, Maya whispered, eyes fixed on the rusted vehicle. Rivera nodded. It's like time just froze in there. The bus sat partially tilted in the silt, its wheels warped, windows spider-cracked. Its once yellow paint was now a sickly green-brown, peeled by water and time. A crane had lifted it halfway out before crews paused, afraid of damaging potential remains. A crew member approached Rivera. "We're ready. Rear emergency door first." Rivera exhaled slowly and walked forward. Maya stayed close, despite her pounding heart. The moment the door creaked open, a sour wave of decay and mildew hit them. Inside, seats remained in rows, though several had collapsed. In the second row on the left, a child's jacket still hung from a hook. In the aisle, a metal lunchbox was stuck in dried silt, its side etched with faded stickers, Power Rangers and Pizza Planet. No skeletal remains were visible from the doorway. But on the last row, pinned between two collapsed seats, an arm bone protruded, tangled in fabric. And next to it, something even stranger. A Polaroid photo, intact and dry as if preserved in a vacuum. Rivera carefully retrieved it, holding it beneath the morning light. Maya gasped. It showed the 10 missing students, but not inside the bus. They were standing in a forest clearing, smiling, with someone else standing behind them. A man, his face scratched out. April 6, 1994. Location, Clearwater State Park, Idaho. The bus engine rumbled to a stop beneath a canopy of pines. Sunlight filtered through the trees like golden dust. A trail sign read, Whispering Pines Trail, 3.5 miles one way. Inside the bus, 10 kids stood up in a clatter of laughter and backpacks. Miss Laurel, their young science teacher, clapped her hands. "All right, everyone, buddy up. Stay on the trail. Be back by 4. Among the group, Riley, the quiet one who loved drawing in his sketchbook. Jess, always reading mystery novels. Eric and Mateo, inseparable pranksters. And Nina, who wore a Walkman and sang out loud, off-key and proud. Elena, Riley's twin sister, more outgoing and always looking after him. Derek, a shy boy who walked with a slight limp. Sasha, brave, always arguing with Miss Laurel. And the final two, Bryce and Morgan, who held hands like an old married couple despite being only 12. They were kids. Just kids. Carrying peanut butter sandwiches, fruit snacks, and disposable cameras. As they hiked, laughter echoed through the trees. They stopped to pose for photos, tossing pine cones, pretending to be lost explorers. Riley sketched a deer. Mateo faked a snake attack. Nina danced with her headphones on. But then, something shifted. About 2 miles in, the forest grew unnaturally quiet. No birds, no breeze. Even Sasha, usually fearless, stopped talking. "We should go back," she said suddenly. Miss Laurel frowned. "We're almost at the overlook." "No," Riley said softly. He was staring ahead, wide-eyed. "There's a man over there." Everyone turned. Between 2 trees stood a figure, tall, unmoving, wearing something like a long coat, or was it a robe? His face was shaded, and when Miss Laurel called out, he said nothing. "Let's turn around," she said quickly. But the man stepped forward. Jess snapped a photo. Then the ground trembled. Just a little, like something deep underground had sighed. And then it was gone. The man, the tremble, the sound. They hiked back faster than they had come. When they reached the bus, the driver was gone. Keys missing. Radio dead. No signal. The sun was already dipping low. And then, the forest swallowed them. March 17, 2024. Location, Idaho State Police HQ, Boise. Detective Rivera stared at the Polaroid under the evidence light. 10 kids. 1 unknown man. His face violently scratched out. "Who took this?" he muttered. "And why hide it?" The forensic team confirmed the film stock matched 1994. No sign of tampering. Yet the photo had somehow avoided water damage, like it had been protected, maybe hidden, inside the bus. Maya sat across from him, holding her own yearbook. She pointed to one face. "This was our teacher, Miss Laurel. She went on that trip, but she wasn't listed in the final missing persons report." Rivera looked up. "What do you mean?" "She didn't vanish with the kids," Maya said. "Came back. But after the trip, she disappeared from the school. Just quit. No goodbyes. My mom always said something wasn't right." Rivera stood, grabbing an old dusty file from the cabinet labeled Clearwater Missing Children, 1994. He flipped to the staff statements. Miss Laurel's report was barely a page long. Bus malfunctioned, attempted to find help. Returned. Students gone. No further comment. Maya raised her eyebrows. "That's it?" Rivera frowned. "That's it." Same day, just outside Boise, Idaho. They found her in a rundown trailer near the edge of a reservation. Laurel Monroe, now 59, went by LJ. Her hair was silver, her face hollow. She barely opened the door. "I told you people everything back then," she said, voice shaking. Rivera held up the photo. "Did you take this?" Laurel froze. Her hand reached out slowly, but stopped just before touching it. "I told them," she whispered, "but no one believed me. They told me to shut up, sign the report, and walk away." "Who told you?" Maya asked. Laurel's eyes filled with tears. "The sheriff, the school board, even the pastor. They said it wasn't safe to talk about him." "Who was he?" Rivera asked. "The man in the woods?" She backed away. "You don't understand. He wasn't just in the woods. He belonged to them. And once he chose the children, there was no getting them back. Maya's voice cracked. "But why were you spared?" Laurel whispered, "Because I ran. I was a coward. And the forest, it only takes the ones who look back." She slammed the door shut. Rivera and Maya stood in silence, the wind picking up dust around them. "What the hell happened in those woods?" Maya whispered. Rivera held the photo tighter. "I don't know, but it's time we find out." April 6, 1994, evening. Location, Clearwater State Park, somewhere off the trail. Rain began to fall. Light at first, then heavier, slamming against the bus roof like drumbeats from above. Miss Laurel was gone. She had run to get help over an hour ago. The students waited in silence, watching the fog thicken outside the windows. Riley clutched his sketchbook. "It's too quiet again." "No radio," Jess said. "No lights. It's like the forest swallowed everything." Eric pressed his face against the glass. "Where's the driver?" He wouldn't just leave. They jumped as the bus shifted slightly, like something heavy had moved outside. The windows fogged from inside as the temperature dropped unnaturally fast. Nina rubbed her arms. "Why is it freezing?" Suddenly, the headlights flickered, then died. In the back, Morgan screamed. "Did you see that?" Someone was right outside, at the emergency exit. Lena turned toward the aisle. "Okay, this is stupid. We're staying together. Nobody separates." Mateo reached into his backpack and pulled out a flashlight. The beam barely cut through the fogged-up windows, but it caught something, movement. A figure, standing just beyond the trees. Same long coat. Same stillness. This time, he stepped closer, then vanished again. The bus engine coughed once, twice, then turned on by itself. "Did one of you touch something?" Bryce shouted. "No!" Sasha yelled. Nobody touched anything. The bus doors slammed shut. Riley flipped his sketchbook open. On the last page, a strange drawing appeared. Not something he remembered sketching. It showed the bus, surrounded by trees that weren't trees. Their trunks were twisted faces, and in the center, a figure in robes with no face at all. I didn't draw this," he whispered. The fog outside turned black. From the front of the bus, a single sound emerged, not mechanical, not natural. It was a low, guttural hum, like chanting but far away. Then came the light, not from outside, from inside the bus. The air grew heavy. The children screamed. Mateo tried to break a window. Sasha pounded the back door. Morgan clung to Bryce. The world bent, and then everything disappeared. No wreckage, no bodies, just the empty clearing, the trees standing tall, and silence. March 20th, 2024, Clearwater State Park. Location, same trail 30 years later. Maya hadn't been back since she was 11. She parked at the trailhead and stepped out, the cool air thick with pine and memory. Everything looked the same. Same sign, same stones, same hush between the trees. Only now, she was the one walking alone. She gripped a small photo in her jacket pocket, the Polaroid they had found. It was now in evidence custody, but she'd made a copy. Every face felt alive. Frozen. Waiting. Detective Rivera had warned her not to go alone. But she had to. She needed to see it. Stand where they stood. And what never ended. The path was narrow but well-marked. She followed it for nearly 2 miles before stopping at a clearing. There, time folded. The trees looked taller, the shadows deeper, and the air still as a held breath. Maya crouched down near a mossy log and picked up something metallic buried in the dirt. She wiped it clean with her sleeve. It was a Power Rangers lunchbox, rusted but intact. Her throat tightened. It was Mateo's. She stood and looked around, heart pounding. The forest watched her, and then the wind stopped. Not slowed, stopped. The birds went silent. A whisper floated past her ear, not in a voice, but in memory. The forest only takes the ones who look back. She turned quickly. Nothing. Just trees. Bark peeling. Stillness stretching. But then the hum. Faint. Same as the one described in the reports. That dreadful, pulsing sound that didn't belong in nature. Maya stepped toward it, deeper into the trees. Her flashlight flickered, even though it was brand new. She saw them. 10 tree trunks. In a circle, each one twisted unnaturally, grooved in a spiral like vines. But the bark, she moved closer. Faces, barely visible. Eyes closed, mouths parted. 10 of them. And in the center, the ground had cracked. A shallow pit. Something metallic glinted below. The bus keys. Maya reached down with trembling hands. As she touched them, a branch behind her broke. She spun. There was a figure. Same as before. Long coat. Hooded. Silent. He raised one hand, not menacing, not threatening. Almost inviting. Maya's breath caught. Was she meant to leave? Had the forest called her here to finish what started? She gripped the keys, stood, and did the one thing she wasn't supposed to. She looked back. March 20th, 2024. Deep Forest, Clearwater Park. Location, the circle of trees. The air shifted. Cold seeped through Maya's skin as the hooded figure stood still, only 20 feet away. He made no sound, no movement, yet something pressed against her mind. A presence, not physical, but ancient. Watching. Maya clutched the bus keys tightly in her fist. "What do you want?" she whispered. The trees responded, not in words, but with movement. Their bark rippled like water, and for a moment, the forest breathed. Behind her, the circle of tree trunks began to hum, soft at first, then louder. A resonance deep in her chest, like a memory returning. Then the faces opened their eyes. All 10. Frozen in wood, their expressions flickered with something almost human. Sadness, confusion, longing. As if they were still aware, trapped in the very trees that had swallowed them. Maya fell to her knees. "Riley," she whispered, recognizing his quiet eyes, the ones that used to sit next to her in math class. "Oh my God." She touched the bark, and with that, the forest opened. Not physically, but mentally. Emotionally. Images crashed through her. The moment the children were taken, the folding of space, the flash of blinding light, their screams turning to silence. They hadn't died. They hadn't grown old. They were held, paused, between time. A sacrifice. Not for punishment, but protection. Something darker had tried to come through that day. The forest made a choice, preserve innocence or let darkness in. So it took them, held them in place like artifacts behind invisible glass. And now, with the bus returned, and Maya here, the balance trembled. You were meant to be with them. The voice didn't come from the figure, it came from inside her. Or the forest. Or both. You were spared once. Now you choose. The keys grew warm in her hand. In the center of the pit, the ground shimmered, an opening. A doorway back. Or a threshold forward. She turned to look at the trees one last time. Riley's eyes locked with hers. "Don't leave us again," his voice whispered, faint, like a breath in the wind. Maya stood frozen. The wind swirled. She could walk away, return to the world, carry the truth and live in the shadow of it. But stay. Complete the circle. Rejoin the ones lost. She stepped toward the pit. One step, then two. Then suddenly she stopped. "No," she whispered. "Not like this." She dropped the keys into the pit. The wind howled. The hooded figure stepped back. The trees shuddered, but didn't resist. And just like that, it ended. The light dimmed. The eyes closed. The presence faded. And Maya, alone again, found herself standing in silence. The forest let her go. This time. March 22nd, 2024, Boise, Idaho. Location, Maya's apartment. Maya sat at her kitchen table, the lights dim, a cup of untouched tea in her hands. Across from her sat the printed copy of the Polaroid. She'd spent hours looking at it since returning. 10 children. Smiling. Frozen. One man behind them, face erased by time, or maybe by mercy. She had told Detective Rivera what she could. Not all of it. Some things you couldn't explain. Some truths felt sacred, like speaking them aloud might break the spell that still held her friends between worlds. Rivera had listened quietly, nodded once, and said, "Sometimes, the case isn't about solving. It's about surviving." That stayed with her. On the kitchen wall hung her childhood yearbook now, open to the page with all their faces. Riley, Sasha, Nina, Theo. She had framed it, not as a memorial, but a promise, that she would remember them when the world no longer did. Outside her window, wind moved through the pines beyond the highway. A familiar whisper. The forest was still out there, still guarding whatever had passed between life and myth. She often wondered what would have happened if she'd stepped into that pit, if she would have joined them, if they were waiting still. But she also knew she was here for a reason, not to relive the past, but to speak for it. In a leather notebook, she began to write down their names. Not just the names, their laughter, their quirks, their inside jokes. Because sometimes the best way to bring someone back is to remember them fully. She wrote until the sun came up. And for the first time in 30 years, the ache in her chest softened. Not vanished, but softened. June 4th, 2024, Clearwater State Park. A small memorial now stands at the edge of the trail. 10 names, 10 candles, 10 stones from the river laid in a circle. Beneath them, a plaque reads, "They were never truly lost. They are just somewhere time can't touch. And love never left." Some say, if you walk the trail alone at dusk, you can hear a school bus humming in the trees. If this story gave you chills, drop a comment with your thoughts below. And if you want more real-life mysteries like this, subscribe now and check out the next video waiting for you on the screen. Trust me, you won't want to miss it.